What's up, everyone? Welcome to Mikey's Boardroom.
Was I supposed to pull it?
I don't know. I'm Mikey.
I'm Krista.
And this is our boardroom. Tonight we're going to do a video of Ankh versus Kemet.
Yay!
So these are two games that we've recently played and put up on our channel. Put up on our channel, reviewed, all that. And because of the similar theme and just the similar style of gameplay.
Similar sucking.
We're not talking about how much you didn't like it. We're going to compare the two.
Exactly. That's what I just did.
We're going to talk about which one we preferred. Don't tell everybody what one, don't spoil it.
I didn't say which one. I said they both suck.
That's true. You're right, actually. You got me on that one. Okay, fair enough. But we're going to talk about...
He's sexier, I'll give you that.
Than who? Than the scorpion?
Than you. Just joking.
Anyways, we're going to talk about the two games. Similar theme, similar kind of... they're not super similar how they play.
It's a similar waste of time, is what you're trying to say.
There's similar theme, and it's a similar, they're both area control sort of dudes on a map style game. So, because there are better comparisons for each, but because these are the two that we've played and put up on our channel, we're going to say Ankh versus Kemet. Between these two, which ones we prefer more and who should play which game. If you're looking at both these games, who should pick this one, who should pick this one. That's what we're going to talk about.
Yes.
So you feel confident that you can give a non-biased answer after all that? A non-bias?
Of what? Which one's better?
I don't know. I don't know why I said non-biased, because this whole video is which one we prefer more.
Yeah, I was like, wait.
Are you confident you can give a bias answer on which one you like?
Which one you like? Really good at.
Which one you like more?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Okay, so let's just jump straight in then. Let's not waste any more time talking to you. Okay. And let's talk about Ankh versus Kemet.
Oh, she's in bed. Okay, she wasn't sure. Let's see her.
Okay, so first let's start on art, theme, and miniatures.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wouldn't it be so cute to name
Ankh
a little boy Arthur and call him Art? Oh my gosh, I think that's really cute.
It's something I've never thought of.
I think it's cute.
It's not how I would use the word cute.
Babies are cute.
Okay, so to me, should I say things first, or should I let you say them so that I don't sway you? Am I gonna?
Am
sway
I
you?
easily swayed?
No, but you could be swayed. You've got.
In fact, you should talk first so that you might make me realize that I don't hate something as much as I do.
So art, theme, and minis. Ankh versus Kemet. So to me, the art in general, Ankh's. Let me just cover you up.
Elbowed me in the face.
To me, Ankh is much more. How should we do this? Let's just lay these down. That way they're not in the way. Just like that. Just like that.
Okay.
So to me, Ankh is a lot more brighter, more vibrant.
Was that the right way to say that sentence? A lot more brighter.
It's also more funner. Ankh to me is more bright and vibrant. There's more colors. Everything kind of pops more. Kemet's a little more darker, grittier, just in the art style and everything. It's just more dark and gritty. The art, the theme, everything is a little more, dark, gritty.
It's like
this is a little more
DC versus Marvel.
Versus Marvel. That's a good way to put it. So similar themes, obviously, and it's all Egyptian style art and different Egyptian gods and creatures and stuff like that. You just get more color and more vibrancy, whereas this is...
I agree. This is more appealing to the eye, and this is less appealing. You kind of squint to look at this one, and this one's look at those colors.
So I prefer Ankh, but there's nothing really inherently wrong with art in either ones. It's just my personal preferences. I like Ankh art more. The theme is exactly the same, basically ancient Egypt, and the miniatures. Miniatures are quality in both. I prefer the Ankh ones. I like how they're lots of different colors.
To be 100% honest, I don't remember what either mini looks like.
The Kemet ones are all those silver, and then each person has their units which are different colors. But
I don't remember.
I don't know. I just like the miniatures. They're good in both. I prefer the Ankh miniatures. So the next thing is just sort of the general turn structure of how each game works. Okay. So Ankh is going to be more event-based, where you're taking actions, move, summon, unlocking a specific power to you, or what's the other one? Or move, summon, What's the third one?
Power.
What's the
Followers.
third one? Followers. You gain tokens,
Yeah.
that currency basically,
Yes.
or you like I said, you unlock a power. So basically, those are the four main actions. Taking those actions are going to lead into triggering events, and the events are going to be how you control area, like do the area control part, or how you build different monuments so that you can control, or how you trigger combat. It's all through different events, but the only thing you can really decide is if you want to move, summon, gain currency, followers, or unlock a power. Doing that all will result in those events happening, and you can try to choose if you're going to take both turns or whatnot. But turn structure is sort of balancing those actions that you take with how they trigger the event that's going to progress the game and progress your points and everything like that.
Yeah, every choice has an immediate consequence.
Yeah, exactly. Every choice matters in the. I guess it'll make more sense when we compare it to Kemet, because Kemet, you're placing discs, and you can place one disc a turn, and those discs can either be move or recruit units, or unlock a tile, which gives you abilities and stuff like that. So Kemet is more, I'm gonna do like Kemet is more, you're choosing the specific action in the game you're going to take, where there's a lot of different things you can do. You can attack, you can do all sorts of stuff. Ankh is going to be more, you have 4 things to choose from, 4 simple actions, but based on where the action board is at and how you've progressed those actions, you could trigger a combat event, or you could trigger where you can take control of a monument, which is going to help gain you points. So that's just just the difference between the general turn structure.
I feel like the difference is Ankh, every single turn has a massive impact on the game. Yeah. Whereas Kemet, it's like you can waste a turn.
You're fiddling
and it
about.
doesn't even matter.
Everybody's just kind of like fiddling about until trying to.
Nothing really matters.
You're just trying to gain.
The end.
You're just trying to build up your units so that you can attack and survive attacks, and controlling different monuments on the board.
Yes.
And by control I mean you just have to be in the same area of it, have units in the same area of it. Whereas Ankh, you literally take control of a monument.
From the very first turn. Yeah. It's like.
Yeah, so it's 4 simple moves, but everything matters, because as you take those moves, you're going to be triggering the actions, and the actions are everything important in this game in Ankh is only you only get to do the important stuff by taking those 4 simple actions and triggering the events. You can't decide you can't decide I'm gonna control this monument. Yeah. Whereas in Kemet, you can say I'm gonna move into this area, which gives me control because I'm the only one here, or I'm gonna move into this area and attack you for control. Yeah. Whereas Ankh, it's more those 4 simple movements. As combat unfolds and as the control monument events unfold, things are gonna turn up differently, and everybody's gonna kind of get points that way. Whereas Kemet is a more direct approach to the points. Ankh is more of a figuring out how to gain points from those 4 actions. If that kind of makes sense. Does that make sense?
I don't think there's. I don't know, but we can probably move on from it. We've gone over it deeply.
Anyways, for me, the winner in this category is Ankh. I prefer Ankh. So everything just flows. Flows
better
together.
Flow, it's more enjoyable. Yeah. And
it keeps the game moving. It's not just I attack you, you attack me. I'm gonna build up troops so that I can attack you exactly where you defeat me last turn. It's Ankh is more, you're getting to the important stuff by doing the non-important stuff. It kind of flows better.
I agree. Ankh.
Okay, so the next category that we'll talk about is the power-ups and abilities, because both these games have power-ups and abilities, and there is slight differences in all of them. So do you want to say anything first about the power-ups and abilities in Ankh? We'll start with Ankh on all of them, I guess. Just makes it easier.
Power-ups and abilities felt a little bit pointless in Ankh.
Okay, so in Ankh, the way it works is that every god that you have has one asymmetric ability, and then on top of that, they also have a bunch of different abilities you can unlock throughout the game that is the same for every god. So each one's gonna have that asymmetric ability, and I feel like they all give you they all help you, and they give you an advantage, but none of them are game breaking, and none of them feel like I wish I picked that god because now you're gonna win because of that. Every single one helps you, but doesn't hurt the other person in a big way, I guess, because there are things that one of the abilities for Ankh is she can choose, as long as she's adjacent to one of my units, as long as her units are adjacent to one of my units, she can decide that they don't die from combat. So that's like very helpful to her, and it does kind of mess me up in some ways. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I'm like, if you control those monuments and you're adjacent to those monuments, you're not taking points away from me by keeping yours alive, by keeping your units alive. You're just helping yourself continually gain points. So every single asymmetric ability and every single god ability helps you without really kind of breaking the game or hindering the other person. Do you think I explained that fairly well?
Yeah.
The unlockable abilities are the same for everybody in Ankh, and they're pretty mediocre. I feel like the unlockable, but like they do help, but there's nothing that's gonna like
not worth set. Your turn
like if I unlocked all these abilities and she didn't unlock any abilities, I'm not going to be that much better off for unlocking the abilities.
You just are for being first.
You still have to play the game well, in order to win on both sides. Kemet, I feel is sort of the exact opposite of that. Whereas that in Kemet you have tons of different power up tiles, and gaining those power up tiles is basically the game. Yeah. Like in Ankh, the power ups and abilities are not like that's just kind of secondary to what the game is. To me, the fun of Kemet and the entire reason to play Kemet is because you're trying to get all those different tiles that either grant you strength and defense bonuses in combat, or they're giving you bonuses like, I don't know, like the big snake. It makes it so that any external bonuses you have on your strength is nullified and they don't affect anything. If I have the snake in my troop, any bonuses you get outside of your units don't count. So some of them are crazy like that, and other ones, less so. But basically, the power-ups are this game, in my opinion. Getting power-ups, whoever accumulates the best power-ups and the most power-ups is going to win in this game, I feel like. Whereas at Ankh, you can play the whole game without power-ups and win still. Yeah. You agree with that?
Yes, I don't like Kemet's things, though, but I do agree that that's basically the game.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's too much. It's overwhelming, and it's so much reading. It's just, I don't know.
There's a lot of reading for all the tiles and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's boring, because I feel like more than half the game is just spent rereading all of the tiles over and over and over again.
True. Another thing is that nothing about the power-ups and abilities feels game-breaking in this. Mm-hmm. And sort of everything in the power-ups and abilities feel game-breaking in this. Like, you can somebody can get a ridiculous power-up tile that's like is game-breaking essentially, where somebody else is going to get another power-up tile that's also game-breaking in a different way. So it's kind of even, but the power-ups and abilities are not going to decide the winner in this. Yeah. Whereas I feel like the power-ups and abilities can definitely decide the winner in this.
Oh yeah, for sure, because you put in a lot of effort to that.
Exactly. So, so just sort of like kind of like comes back to like what are you looking for in this style of game? Yeah. But like game-breaking abilities, non-game-breaking abilities in general would be my consensus between the two. Yeah. You agree with that?
Yes, I would pick Ankh's.
You're so not into this. You're just like, I don't like either of these. I don't know why we're comparing these. I don't know why anybody would want to.
I know why we're comparing them, and I get it, and I am saying I would pick Ankh.
Okay.
Hands down.
I personally, in the power-ups and abilities category, I would pick Kemet. Mm-hmm. I don't mind game-breaking abilities. I don't mind getting screwed over because somebody else picked another tile.
I don't mind that either.
And I feel like the power-ups and abilities in this are just completely lackluster and almost ineffective in a lot of ways.
But what's nice about it is you read it like once and you know it. Like the game isn't boring. I'm not spending the entire game in Kemet, reading in silence.
You're talking about the booklet you get.
Yeah.
So in Kemet,
it's just complete silence.
there's what is it, like 4 by 4, there's like 6 like 30 in a 2-player game. There's like 30 some tiles, and you have a booklet that can read through all what they all do and stuff like that. And once you learn the symbols, you don't have to read it, but it is kind of a slog reading through all these different tiles. And if you're going to unlock an ability and gain a tile, you have to kind of read through all of them, like which one do I want. And just the whole nature of it, where you can only gain those tiles, and they're all different levels based upon how you build your pyramids, which is a separate action. You have to look through the book. Yeah. And look at all the different abilities and all the different tiles. You're like, do I want, like, if we're playing with red and black tiles in this game, do I want to build up my red pyramid, or would I rather build up my black pyramid? And so there's a lot of reading and kind of research at the beginning of the game. And during. Whereas Ankh, you can just kind of wing it. Yes. So for power-ups and abilities, I do like Kemet more. but I kind of like I definitely like the ease of entry or whatever.
My difference is that when we play games together, I'm playing for the connection and the laughing and the fun stuff. Mm-hmm. And so when we play this, because I'm reading all that crap, none of that's happening. When we play this,
that's all happening.
That's all happening.
I guess that it all. That's a good point. To me, like, this is more casual fun. You have more casual fun as this.
Which is what I like.
Whereas this is more like like I want dudes on the map,
destroy
area
you.
Control. I will beat you, like you will die.
Yeah, and that's not what I'm looking for in games.
So casual versus hardcore, I guess, would be another way to kind of to do this. But for me, in the power-ups and abilities category, I think Kemet wins because I like those game breaking things, and the whole fun of this for me was getting the tiles. If you took out those tiles,
just really know you looked like a weirdo, like in a library. Like, I'm gonna pair this one with this one and this one with this one. Have you ever seen that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme where it's like that one guy and he's got like a paper? That's what you looked like.
He's an expert in bird law.
Well, that's what you looked like, an expert in Kemet law.
I'm gonna pair this tile.
That's what you look
like.
With
this token.
And you were like, look what I'm gonna do here. You like, oh, like really like.
Yeah, because that was the fun. That was the only part I found fun in Kemet. Spoilers. Like, you can check it. Like I said, we have reviews and playthroughs of both these games up. There's not a secret of which one I prefer more. But to me, the tiles is the only thing fun in this game.
If you like that stuff, then
it was the only
for
thing
sure
fun,
Kemet. Like hands down, if you're looking for that type of a thing, Kemet wins all the way.
All right, so power-ups and abilities, I feel like Kemet has the upper advantage. Would you agree with that?
Upper advantage, yes. Less fun, yes.
Okay, so let's talk about combat because both of these games have combat.
Yes.
Okay, so in Ankh, the combat is actually a consequence of taking those actions, like we've already talked about. Mm-hmm. You don't decide to attack the person, or you don't decide to move into the same region, which triggers a conflict. In Ankh, you're taking those move, summon, gain followers, or unlock an ability actions. As you take those actions, you move that little marker to the right, and once it goes all the way to the right, you trigger the event. One of those events on the board is going to be the combat event. So it's not like I said, it's not something you can choose, then I can choose to do to you, and then you can choose to do again with me, and it's like, fine, you beat me, I'm going to build up troops and just attack you again. Mm-hmm. It's more, you're taking all those actions, you're trying to decide when it would be beneficial to trigger that combat event while you're worrying about something else, like mainly. You know what I mean? Like I want to move here and I want to summon here, but I have to worry about, like, if I move here, I'm going to trigger combat and I'm not going to be able to summon. Mm-hmm. If I summon, I'm not going to be able to move after because it's above it. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of balance everything out with the actions or with the events that are going to trigger. Okay. Right?
Yes. I spaced out part of it. I tried really hard. You just get this tone in your voice and it's just like whoosh.
My passion.
Yes,
my excitement.
Nailed it.
Man, I should have shaved for this video. I look like a hobo version of myself.
No, you don't. Trust me. You look like that at Stone.
When it gets even longer, it looks like the hobo.
And your hair.
That's what I used to tell people that. Yeah, when I worked at Stone Brewing, I had like long facial hair, but long for me is like pubes. Like it just looked like pubes and patchy, and then my hair was just super like greasy and long.
It wasn't greasy, but it was long.
Oh, trust me, after like 4 tours at Stone, it was greasy.
Oh, I used to
showered. When I would tell people that I used to be an EMT, they'd be like, "What? Like I can't imagine you as an EMT." I'm like, "Yeah, I just look like a less homeless version of myself." That's what I used to say. Anyways, back to this.
Yes.
The triggering combat in Ankh gives you an advantage in that if you're tied with the other person in one of the conflicts, you get a token that breaks that tie in your favor. Mm-hmm. But even if you don't trigger the event in Ankh or trigger the combat event in Ankh, when you trigger combat, it goes through each region of the board, and you do conflict in each region as separate acts. So region 1, we have troops together. Let's do combat. You won, great. Region 2, only I have troops, so I gain points. Region 3, we have troops again, so we do combat. Oh look, I won that one. So, and no matter, even if the combat, you're still gaining points for your monuments. Mm-hmm. You're still gaining points for being adjacent to those monuments. You just get an extra point if you win that combat. Mm-hmm. So even if you're not the one that triggers the combat event in Ankh, you're basically set up to still get points from that event being. From that event being triggered.
There you go. Good job.
That is Ankh. Kemet is different in that it's more traditional, in that, like, I have my troops, you have your troops. I want the monument you control with your troops, so I'm going to move my troops into your region, and that triggers the combat event. And then I lose. Oh, shoot, I lost. I'm going to just work those troops back up again, take a couple of recruit actions, and then combat it again. Or if you win, exactly, if you win, you're just going to do the same thing. You're going to work up your troops and try and take that monument back. It's just such a back and forth. Yes. And this is more for a 2-player or 3-player game of Kemet, but there's so much back and forth where it's like, I'm just going to build my troops and attack you here. I'm just going to build my troops and attack you here. Where it loses all that strategic kind of nuance that Ankh has, because you have to work around the event being triggered. Whereas in Kemet, it's just like, I'm going to attack you, or I'm going to build up my troops, then attack you. There's no, like, it takes so much of that strategy, sort of that puzzle out. I don't want to say no strategy, because there is strategy, but Ankh presents it more as a puzzle of how am I going to come out of this win with points. Yeah. Whereas Kemet's like, sort of, how can I build up my troops to beat you?
Yeah, there's not really much of a puzzle. Stupid in it anyways. Like, you can still have all your people die or something, right? But yes, yeah. So you can still win the fight and lose all your troops. Yeah, so it's kind of weird like that. But I'm not going to get on that, because that's more mechanics wise, and like if it didn't work like that, it would change other dynamics of the game. There's a reason it works like that in this that I don't really like, but I'm not gonna argue that, because I'm sure there's a reason they did it like that. Stupid.
She said it, not me. Madigo. It was all her. Send me free games. Send me free games. Okay, so in combat, to me, Ankh is a winner. Hands down.
I actually enjoyed the combat.
I feel like yeah. Whereas lots of it is lots of it. This whole thing is personal preference. Yeah. And I want to say this is personal preference too, but objectively also Ankh is better in combat. Ankh does combat better than Kemet. It does. At a lower player count. Yeah. Another thing I want to talk about in combat is the cards, because the way combat works is in both of these games, each person has the same exact set of cards that give you a strength bonus. And everybody knows the exact cards everybody has. Everybody knows the exact cards that...
Was Kemet like that too?
That people have played. I don't remember that. The difference is in Ankh, there's different abilities tied with those cards. So if you want to build a new monument in a region to control, to try and take that majority away from the other person in that region, that's tied to a combat card. So once you play it, you can't use it again. You can't build a monument again. You can't do any of that again until you're able to pick up your cards again, which takes a whole nother combat event. On top of that, if you're dominating a region and you're the only person that has troops in that region, you can't keep building monuments in that region, because the build a monument region, I'm sorry I'm boring you, but the build a monument region is tied to a combat card. So you have to be in combat to play that card and to build a monument. Building a monument is like a huge thing that helps you win the game, but it's tied to combat. Just like the controlling a monument, taking control of a neutral monument and triggering combat is all tied to the event system. Building a monument is tied to the combat system. So every single action that is important in this game that will win you the game, you don't get to decide directly that you're going to do. You have to decide to take one of those 4 actions, and hopefully you've set yourself up and strategized enough to trigger one of those events that you want. That's Ankh. Kemet, the cards, like I said, the same thing, where you have all the cards are all the same. The difference is there's no abilities on those cards. Instead of abilities, you have something called the divinity cards, which will add an additional stat boost or let you do something like move a troop or recruit a troop or something like that. And you play those in secret that the other person doesn't see. And then when you flip the cards... I remember that. When you flip the cards, like, haha, you thought I used that card, so I didn't have that much strength, but now I have a 3 strength boost, so I do win. So Kemet does switch it up a little... Excuse me. Kemet does switch it up a little bit, but not like Ankh. And Ankh, like the cards, just the cards in every way, Ankh wins to me. Yes, I agree. The abilities are fun. The abilities, not only do they let you build a monument in Ankh, but they also let you gain points for losing. They also let you gain points or the currency, the follower tokens, just depending on what type of spot your units are on. Like if you have all your units on a grass type, you can gain stuff for having to spend units on a grass type of land or on a desert type land. So it just switches it up more, whereas the Kemet, the card combat, just feels very bland.
Yeah, it just feels boring. Like you're like, who's going to win? This is like you're playing the game while you're...
Exactly. What this needs is abilities like Ankh has. If the card combat had abilities like Ankh does,
it'd still be sucky.
But it would be so much better. It would be so much better. It would be so much better if it had abilities. But anyways, to me, combat and the card play, Ankh wins hands down.
Winner.
No question about it. So that's combat. Do you have anything else you want to say about combat?
No.
Okay. Okay, so the next one is player count. And this one, to me, there's a winner, but it just depends what you're looking for. Ankh is going to be better at the lower player counts. 2 players specifically, Ankh is fantastic. I've never played an area control game that plays as well as Ankh at 2 players. Kemet is sort of the opposite in that, where we play at 2 players and it's not very good. But if you have 4, 5, 6 players, I really feel like Kemet's going to take the advantage over Ankh, because you just have more people playing, more people using the tools given to you to...
Are you going to throw up?
No, I'm trying to think how to finish this thought. In Kemet, I feel like with more players, you're able to utilize the tools it gives you to change things up and keep things fresh, and everything's sort of different because, like, sure, we go back and forth, but now there's 4 other people.
There's more turns to do all those same
There's 3
things.
other people that it's not a back and forth, because there's 5 people that are all trying to do the same thing, and so it's a fight between 5 people rather than just a back and forth between 2. So Kemet's going to be better at those higher player counts, whereas Ankh, because it's so good at those 2 player at the lower player counts, I feel like 2. I honestly feel like 2 is ideal for Ankh, whereas 3 is still going to be good. But once you get up in those player counts, even though we haven't played this at 4 or 5 player counts, does it even go up to 5? I don't know. We haven't played these at anything besides 2. Both of these we've only played at 2. I can see how this would be great at 5 players who are into this. Versus like 4 or 5 players, I feel like this is going to get a lot more muddled, a lot more out of your control. Where what I like about this game is sort of strategizing, being like, what are you going to do? And how can I make it so that I trigger this monument control, rather than like, what actions can I take so that you don't get to trigger a good event and I get to trigger it next turn. Whereas if you have more players, I spit everywhere. If you have more players, it's just going to get muddled, and it's going to be more like, rather than I have control over this, it's going to be like, I'm just riding the wave. If I'm going to take these actions, if it works out in my favor, great. But if it doesn't work out in my favor, it's just kind of suck. And sometimes it's just not going to work out in your favor. Whereas Kemet, I feel like you have a little more control over what I'm going to do with a larger player count. I guess that's where I'm getting at. In a larger player count, this gives you more control. This is more riding the wave. Whereas in a lower player count, this is more kind of gives you control, and this is sort of just a back and forth.
Okay.
That's your response?
You know me, I can't like picture these things. I'd have to play it with more people to have
that's true.
opinion.
I mean, that is fair. There is I have done a lot of research on what different people say, and a lot of my opinions on higher player counts come into me researching what other people have said about these games, because I haven't. But in my personal experience, that's just how it is, and that's how it's been affirmed a lot in my research.
With the 0 research I've done, I've concluded that you're right. Let's move on.
And that is what I like to hear.
It's the one time you'll ever hear those words come out of my mouth.
Okay, so let's talk about win condition in Endgame, because I feel like that's the last sort of...
Wind condition?
Yeah, like if it's blowing from the east or blowing from the west.
I don't know which way you aim in your butt right now, and I'll tell you.
East. No, win condition. And,
what does that mean?
And just like Endgame in general.
Like the conditions of winning?
Like the last 10 minutes of this game versus the last 10 minutes of this game. Like
I think I blacked out the last 10 minutes of this game.
You blacked out the last 45 minutes of this game.
The entire game.
Endgame, like the end game, okay. And like everything, like after the chunk.
Thanos wins.
After the majority, no, Thanos was right, but he didn't win. Okay, so Endgame. So in Ankh, the ending of the game is triggered by an event. It's the final combat event, and so you go through combat one at a time. Oh, you know what? I forgot to talk about. Oh, no, never mind. So you go through combat one at a time, and whoever comes out at the end of that combat event, whoever comes out on top with the most devotion points is going to win. Because of the way the game scales, and there's something called camel caravans, which we'll talk about in a second, but because of that, point fluctuations can change greatly just in that last combat event, and even if somebody's ahead by a lot, they can lose the game still. So that's Endgame for Ankh. Out of our control, or not out of our control, but triggered by an event after taking those turns. In Kemet, it's a little bit different in that you're trying to get nine devotion points, and you get those by controlling monuments in the area and then also doing different things. But you have to start your turn with 9 points, I'm just going to say 9. You have to start your turn with 9 points, and because of that, if you get those 9 points, then somebody else takes their turn, they can take control of a monument and take one of those points away from you once they gain control of that monument. And so everybody can kind of be yanking the win away from each other. And that can kind of lead to a back and forth where it's like, well, I control this monument. Well, fine. Like, I have all these troops. I'm going to move here. Oh, look, I took that monument from you. So you have to start your turn with 9 points. So that can kind of lead to a back and forth at the end there. Whereas the game's going to end once the event is triggered and the winner will come out on top. The ending of the game is not quite decided until somebody starts their turn with a set amount of points. Right? Anything is like, would you agree with that?
Yes. Yes, dear.
So to me, the winner in this category is Ankh, because I don't like the whole back and forth nature. One of my biggest drawbacks of this game is that at the lower player counts, it's just the back and forth, whether it's combat, monument control, trying to take points from somebody. It all leads back to that back and forth of just, I attack you, you attack me, I attack you, you attack me, type of thing. So to me, Ankh is the clear winner in that category.
100%. No doubt in my mind. It's hard for me because I really, really disliked Kemet.
Yeah.
Like,
a lot.
So much so.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't even have much to say because Ankh just wins for me.
I mean, there are good things about this game.
Like when we closed it and put it away.
And like I said, I think this is geared more towards a higher player count, whereas this is geared more towards the lower player count. This is geared more towards the hardcore player. This is geared more towards the casual player.
Which is I. That is me.
The only other differences I have is that Ankh has another thing called a camel caravan.
The camels are cute.
The camels are cute, and on top of that, they allow you to actually split up the map, and so that allows you to that just adds more strategic elements in the area control, the monument control, gaining the points, the devotion points for like dominating a region and all that. That just adds so much extra strategy. And again, that camel caravan can get you a lot of points, and it's triggered by an event. So you can't just decide to do a camel caravan. You have to actually set yourself up to trigger the camel caravan event over another event, which could be build a monument, or not build a monument, could control a monument, or trigger combat. So it's a give and take everywhere in this game. Whereas Kemet, it doesn't have that sort of extra little flair, in my opinion. It's kind of what it is, and it does it well, but it is what it is. So.
It sucks.
So let's talk about... And that's a perfect time to lead into which one we like more. Let's talk about the overall better game in our opinions. So you go first because you've made it, every step of the way you've made it clear which one you prefer.
Kemet is not my favorite. Ankh is.
And why?
It's just better. It's not boring. Like,
so
that's how
the game just flows so much better.
It's so much
Everything
better.
is tied in together so well. And what I love about Ankh is that you can't... everything that's going to get you points and everything that is important in this game that you want to do, you can't just choose to do it. You have to
work for it.
You have to take external actions that will lead into that.
Yes.
And those actions will set you up to flourish in those events that are triggered, but you have to trigger those events to get those. If I set myself up, but I'm never triggering the control monument events, it doesn't matter that I've set myself up because I'm not going to control any extra monuments like she will. You just, like, it all flows together so well, and that everything that will gain you points, you have to strategically think about and plan for.
Yeah, I think it's like every turn counts. Like I said it. Like every turn is important. So like it's not like I'm just wasting a turn not knowing what to do.
Exactly.
Like this,
whereas
it was
Kemet is the exact opposite. It's sort of
like, what the heck am I gonna do? I don't know.
And turns can be very, like, because you're just placing a disc, you can be like, well, this turn I'm gonna recruit. Yeah. And you move the disc and you get the person and that's it. Whereas in this, it's like I'm gonna recruit, but there's more to it than just recruiting. You put the person in your area, but you're also moving the recruit tracker to the right, which could set her up to trigger that event, or it could set her up in that if she chooses the same thing to recruit, she's going to set me up to trigger the event, which she's not wanting to do. So if I recruit, she may need to recruit, but she's not going to want to.
Yep.
So there's just a lot more strategic elements to this,
and like fun strategic elements. Yeah. Not just reading.
This presents more of a puzzle and gives you sort of a puzzle to solve.
That's probably why I like it more.
Whereas this doesn't. And like in general, in board games in general, what I look for in a game is something that like a puzzle to solve.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily care if it's an area control or this type of game or that type of game.
Yeah.
Like as long as there's sort of something to work my brain around and kind of solve the puzzle
and not
of.
Too much
like I like that. And so that's what I like about Ankh, whereas Kemet just I didn't feel like I ever had anything to solve. It was always just sort of like, how am I gonna take this spot from you?
How am I gonna get to the end of this game?
Or how am I going to end this game so we can be done?
How can I play just enough so you don't get mad at me for not trying?
And you know what you're thinking right now? How can I end this video so I can go
exactly
eat?
What I'm thinking.
Okay, so the last thing I just want to talk about is who should play each game, because this is a good game and this is a good game. They're both good games, and there are people that will not like this and there are people that will not like this. For us, obviously, we prefer this game, and this is more our style. So I just want to talk about who should play each game real quick. Play Ankh, in my opinion. Play Ankh if you have less player count. I would say 3 and less, 2 and 3. If you only play with 2 and 3 people, get Ankh over Kemet for sure. This is more geared towards casual players, sort of like board game nights or whatever, where you're going to play with people who aren't all into super heavy war games or stuff like that.
I would say most women as well.
Now you just got to be sexist.
Well, no, because like it's just I don't know.
I am appalled.
That's why I said most.
I'm appalled.
Not all. I would say most girls would probably prefer this game. Like if your girlfriend or wife isn't super into board games, is what I'm saying. Like Ankh is the better choice.
I'll give you that.
If your girlfriend or wife is into board games, Kemet.
I would say that more women would probably like this over this, but I wouldn't say that more men would prefer this over this. I would just say that this is better. This is better for casual players. I feel like that covers more women than men. I could be wrong, and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is more geared towards casual players, whereas this is more geared towards people who are going to want that area control, dudes on a map, like back and forth, kind of like more of a war game. Exactly, more of a war game, more intense, sort of like I'm gonna like beat you to a pulp. That's all I got. That's all I got. I'm done. I'm ready.
I thought you would never ever end. It's like when I'm telling you all the chores we have to do.
Check out our other videos. Check out our other videos. Tell us which game you prefer if you played both. And I'm ready to go get naked. That's where I'm going to end it right there. I don't care. You know,